Hello everyone. Before I start, I would like to wish all my American subscribers, North American subscribers that is, Happy Thanksgiving. I know you Canadians are celebrating Thanksgiving sometimes in early October. Bit delayed, but nonetheless, Thanksgiving to all my North American subscribers. SpaceX Starship Mark 1 blew up. Well, bits of it blew up. Out of commission permanently. Work on Mark 2 Starship continues. As Mark 2 has identical design, there is a good chance SpaceX won't risk Mark 2 for suborbital flights. So only extensive tests will be conducted on the Starship. Starship Mark 3, on the other hand, will be redesigned to accommodate for the changes learned from Mark 1 mistakes. Work on Starship Mark 3 should start imminently, as pre-manufactured bits of the Starship were just delivered to Boca Chica SpaceX facility, where Starship Mark 3 will be constructed in coming months. Will Mark 2 ever fly? I honestly don't know. I don't think it will. In my previous video I mentioned SpaceX will fly Mark 2. However, Elon Musk nor SpaceX mentioned anything. However, they are keen to test Starship as soon as possible. As soon as I find out more, I'll post news about it. Starship Mark 3, on the other hand, will be redesigned based on what we've learned from Starship Mark 1. However, Starship Mark 3 won't be ready for at least another 4 months. I'm doubtful, in fact, it will be ready before April. And if SpaceX wants to test Starship Mark 3, it will need to do suborbital tests first. This means SpaceX is likely to build Mark 4 for orbital tests and use Mark 3 for suborbital tests only. This will slightly delay SpaceX and Elon Musk's timeline. They hope to conduct suborbital flight tests this year. In fact, Elon Musk mentioned it quite a few times. However, this now seems unlikely to happen before mid-2020, I think. And for orbital flights, we might need to wait until mid to late 2020, perhaps October, when Mark 4 will be ready for such flights. This means work on Mark 5 will start in late 2020, but won't be complete by mid-2021. SpaceX will use Mark 5 Starship for the first manned spaceflight, but only after extensive testing on ground and in space, and this could take considerable time. Launch escape system in manned Starship, which I presume SpaceX will design into Mark 5, will also need good looking. This might require substantial redesign of manned version of Starship. After all, we don't want a repeat of Challenger and Columbia disasters. Then only 7 astronauts died. Imagine 40 people dying on Starship. That makes a lot bigger headline, especially if some of the passengers were quite rich. Talking of rich people, Elon Musk gifted a piece of Starhopper to Japanese billionaire Yasuko Maezawa, first man to fly on Starship in 2023. And now Mars news. Life on Mars. Scientists are baffled by a new discovery on the red planet that could point to the existence of life on Mars. Oxygen levels on the Martian surface have been rising and falling by different amounts every year, which means something is adding oxygen to the atmosphere, then taking it away. Curiosity rover mission, which have been taking measurements of the gas. They discovered that amount of oxygen in Martian air rose by 30% in spring and summer. The pattern remains a mystery, but the researchers are beginning to narrow the possibility. While the changes are most likely to be geological in nature, planetary scientists can't completely rule out an explanation involving microbial life. Mars loss of water explained. It seems Martian dust storms might be responsible and the reason why Mars today is barren and dry planet. Dust towers, which on Mars can reach atmosphere, are most likely the culprit. Dust towers are massive, churning clouds that are denser and climb much higher than the normal background dust in a thin Martian atmosphere. In most cases up to 80 kilometers. While they also occur under normal conditions, the tower appear to form in greater numbers during global storms. During 2007 global storm on Mars, water molecules were lofted into the upper atmosphere where solar radiation could break down into particles that escape into space. That might be the clue as to how the red planet lost its lakes and rivers over billions of years, becoming the freezing desert that is today. Water vapor on Jupiter's moon Europa. Keck Observatory detected what is believed to be water plumes on surface of Jupiter's icy moon Europa. Before the recent water vapor detection, there have been many tantalizing findings on Europa. The first came from NASA's Galileo spacecraft, which measured perturbation in Jupiter's magnetic field near Europa while orbiting the gas giant planet between 1995 and 2003. The measurements suggest to scientists that electroconductive fluid, likely a salty ocean beneath Europa's ice layer, was causing the magnetic disturbances. When researchers analyzed the magnetic disturbances more closely in 2018, they found evidence of possible plumes. Discovery of water vapor does not mean that there is life on Europa. However, indication of liquid water with the interior of Europa means there is a good chance of life evolving on the Jovian moon. Future NASA missions to the moon in near future could confirm what is now only a theory. European Space Agency successfully launched and deployed TIBA-1 and Inmarsat GX-5 telecom satellites into their planned orbits. This was fifth launch of Ariane 5 rocket this year so far. However, not that long ago, European Space Agency dominated rocket launch business. This is until arrival of SpaceX and its much cheaper Falcon 9 rocket. European Space Agency is now developing more capable and cheaper Ariane 6 rocket, which will be partially reusable. Blue Origin is hard at work. New facility Blue Origin is building near Cape Canaveral in Florida is nearing an end. Blue Origin plans to build massive New Glenn rocket there. Commercially, Blue Origin has secured some dozen launches for dozen customers in 2021 and 2022. Blue Origin hopes to compete with SpaceX for lucrative NASA Artemis moon program. Both privately owned space agencies are rolling out large rockets, which will offer great cost savings through higher efficiency and rocket reusability. SpaceX Starlink. SpaceX is set to launch final Starlink constellation later next month. On November 11th, SpaceX launched 60 brand new satellites. SpaceX now has around 120 broadband satellites in low Earth orbit as we speak, surpassing 75 satellite Iridium Next constellation as the largest telecommunication system in space. SpaceX estimates it needs at least 6 Starlink launches, presumably of 60 satellites each, to have sufficient number to start offering internet access at high latitudes such as Canada and northern United States. After 24 launches, SpaceX projects reaching global coverage, a milestone anticipated in 2020. NASA report finds Boeing seat prices are 60% higher than SpaceX. That doesn't look good for Boeing, which hoped it can remain competitive with CST-100 spaceship. Last Thursday, NASA Inspector General released a report on the space agency's commercial crew program, which seeks to pay Boeing and SpaceX to develop vehicles to transport astronauts to the International Space Station. Although the report cites the usual technical issues that companies are having with the development of their respective Starliner and Dragon spacecraft, but far more illuminating is the discussion of costs. Notably, the report publishes estimates seat prices for the first time, and it also dwells into the extent that Boeing has gone to extract more money from NASA above and beyond its fixed price award. Boeing's per seat price already seemed like it would cost more than SpaceX. The company has received a total of $4.82 billion from NASA over a lifetime of the commercial crew program, compared to $3.14 billion for SpaceX. However, for the first time, the government has published a pre-seat price of $90 million for Starliner and nearly half that, or $55 million for Dragon. Each capsule is expected to carry 4 astronauts to the space station during a nominal mission. Boeing Starliner and SpaceX Crew Dragon crew capsules are on track for back-to-back launches. NASA commercial crew partners Boeing and SpaceX are taking the steps towards 2 unique flight tests of their respective Starliner and Crew Dragon spacecraft. December could be jam-packed with spaceflight milestones. In the last 2 weeks alone, both companies have checked off major milestones while preparing their human-rated spacecraft for flight. And with little luck, over the next few weeks, Starliner and Crew Dragon processing could align for the back-to-back launches in the last few weeks of 2019. Starliner Uncrewed Orbital Flight Test, or OFT, is currently scheduled no earlier than December 17th, and Boeing, after years of delays, is finally on the last leg of preparation for the spacecraft orbital launch debut, on November 4th, some 12 months after it was originally planned. Boeing's Starliner spacecraft completed mostly successful pad abort test, demonstrating the ability to whisk astronauts away from the failing rocket or any other pad emergency prior to the launch. SpaceX is in the late stage of preparing Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon for the spacecraft in-flight abort, or IFA, a test that Boeing chose not to perform. On November 13th, Crew Dragon capsule C205 successfully fired up 2 Draco maneuvering thrusters and its 8 integrated Super Draco abort engines, verifying that major design flaw that destroyed capsule C201 has likely been alleviated. Crew Dragon's IFA test is scheduled no earlier than December 2019 and will likely fall somewhere in second half of the month, potentially putting it just days before or after Starliner's orbital launch debut. Both providers believe they could be ready for the first astronaut launch in early 2020. NASA Artemis program continues strong with addition of 5 new partners which are reported on early in the month, so please do check that video out. NASA has also moved Orion spacecraft to Plum Brook Station test area, where NASA will test Orion and other Artemis components. As I'm working on Artemis video, I'll post more data about the program and progress so far. Latest breakthrough in medicine could revolutionize space travel. Suspended animation could allow for long voyages through space. If you watch sci-fi film Alien in particular, you remember the scene where the crew wakes up from hibernating sleep. In this case, doctors have placed humans in suspended animation for the first time as part of trial in US that aims to make it possible to fix traumatic injuries that would otherwise cause death. University of Maryland School of Medicine team of medics has placed at least 1 patient in suspended animation. EPR involves rapidly cooling a person to around 10 to 15 Celsius by replacing all of their blood with ice-cold saline. Patient's brain activity almost completely stops. They are then disconnected from the cooling system, and their body, which would otherwise be classified as dead, is moved to the operating theatre. As this video is already quite long, I'll end it here. However, tune in for next month's space news. I'll be doing these updates once a month, covering a number of interesting space-related news that get little coverage, or in case of SpaceX, loads of coverage. Perhaps from next year I'll start Mars and Moon updates once per month as well.